Very good. Okay. So today's daf is daf Samach Vav. Okay, Samach Hey. I'm sorry, and we're going to begin on Samach Dalet Amid Beis from the Mishnah. So just to review, just to give you an introduction for the Mishnah, is the Mishnah is talking about something totally, we've never discussed this topic before. Since we're discussing about dead bodies, it comes into this Masechta. But basically, you have to know that when the person dies, here we can just take him to Long Island, they dig the grave right then and there. In those days, it was families were buried together in these type of caves. Because it was, you had to pay an early on, you prepare your family for where their final place will be. So this is how it looked. Okay, you had a cave we entered, and there was along the wall there were three puchin, they're called, grave holes in the wall where you could put a body in. And we'll see how that becomes relevant in the Mishnah right now. Before we begin, just going to explain that to move a body, if you find a body, really you're not supposed to move the body. If you why? Because the mace does not want to be moved. It's not respectful for the mace. Also, if you move the mace becomes scared because it's thinking that God is calling them to the Yom Adin. And so therefore, we don't move a mace unless there's a special reason to do so, either because you want to move him to be buried next to his family or to move him to Israel. Our Mishnah is talking about a person is digging up a backyard, and he finds a dead body. Can he move it from there? So let's see what our Mishnah begins. Our Mishnah begins like this. Okay, let's make it bigger. Hamaitzi meis batchila. He finds a mace that nobody knew about it. Nobody knew about there was a dead body there. Apparently, a person may have been he dropped dead there, and they buried him there. Nobody remembered that there was a mace there. So what do you do if you want to move the body? It's just one dead body. So the Mishnah says, mushkav kedarkai, if it's lying there like the normal Jewish way to bury a body, because the Gemara is going to discuss that there are goyish ways to bury a dead body. So, and therefore these halachas don't apply because it's a goy. But if you can verify that the way they buried this dead body was the Jewish way, so noitle, you're permitted to take it, the est tfusasoi, and which means that you not only take the body, but you're also supposed to take the surrounding dirt from the body. So surrounding dirt that's surrounded in the grave. So even though this is dirt that probably the bones and was not seeped into that part of the dirt, there's a secret of Kabbalah that you're supposed to take a lot, 3 etzbos of the 3 fingers width of the dirt that's underneath where the base was buried. You have to take that together to move the mace to its new spot. So that's if you find one dead body. Shanayim, but if you find 2 dead body, you have the same halacha. You can move it. There's no problem for moving it because it's like a one-time place over there, and you could only assume that it was an accident that the person ended up being buried there. So then again, Neutlin, you're permitted to move that dead body, the estfusasan, and the dirt surrounding that, the loose dirt and the virgin dirt surrounding that dead body. But now the Mishnah says, Matzah shloisha, if you find 3, let's bring up the picture over here. So over here, they used to bury like this. You have one, let's call a grave, a ma'ara. It's called a cave. And on each side of the cave, you're going to have 3 bodies, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, and 2 in the back. So that's how they buried a ma'ara, which was a cave. And the cave, its length was 6 amas by a width of 4 amas. And every body, every grave took, let's say, an amma. And then there was an amma space, and then the grave itself took an amma, and then there was an amma space, etc. So now That's how you have one ma'ara, one cave of a group of graves. Then they would have a chotzer, an open space in the middle of 6 amas, and then they would have another ma'ara, another cave full of these type of graves on the side. I showed you the picture before. I mean, this is just a handwritten drawing. But the way it was an underground cave with they buried into the wall of the cave. Okay, so now what the Mishnah is trying to say is the question is perhaps if you find 3 people, if you find 3 graves, you can assume that if there is, the Mishnah is going to say, if there is less than, if you find between the first dead body and the third dead body, you found a distance of 4 amas to 8 amas, okay, not less than 4 amas and not more than 8 amas, then you can assume that you discovered an entire grave site for a family or something like that. So therefore, there's an indication that this is called a cemetery, okay? And once you've established that there was a cemetery, then you can't move it. So again, the Mishnah is saying, let's say I didn't excavate the one at a time. I excavated my entire backyard, let's say, and then I find 3 bodies there. If between the first body and the third body, it is not less than a distance of 4, not more than a distance of 8, somewhere between 4 and 8 of a distance. And I just gonna show you the cheshbon over here that you have a cheshbon. Let's say if the first body is over here, if you go on a diagonal, you're not going to get it more than 7 amas from one corner of a cave to another corner of the cave. So that's what the Mishnah is saying. Matzah shloisha. Let's say I uncovered my whole backyard and I find 3 bodies. So in yesh ben zelazeh, between the first and the third body, there's a midalid amas achmoinit. It's not less than 4 amas and 8 amas. Suppose, let's say there's 7 amas between the first and the third body. So then the Mishnah, I'll be the cheshbon of the way they used to bury. Okay, it's the ancient way they used to bury is harezu shchunas kavaris. You have to know that this is considered a cemetery, and then you're not allowed to move any of the bodies because it's an established cemetery, and they were buried there on purpose, and therefore not temporarily, but for permanency, and therefore you're not allowed to move any about it. Not only are you concerned that this is a grave site, this is a cemetery. We go to Daf Samach Hey Amar Aleph, but boidik hemenu ul halon esrim amma. You have to now search another 20 amas because maybe there's another cave on the other side with another family. You have to go in directions of 20 amas each way. Now I'm going to point out to you something else. You're going to point out to you, really, if you go to the first picture over here, the length of the first cave is 6 amas. Then there's an open courtyard called a chotzer, another 6 amas. And then you have another cave that's another 6 amas. 6 is 18. But there is sometimes, so therefore, really, you should only be checking 18 amas, going in a direction. Each direction, 18 amas. And our Mishnah says you check for perhaps another cave in 20 amas, because sometimes you have this situation that you bury on an angle. They would make one cave totally on an angle, so you get an extra 2 amas. So you'll have 6 amas from the first cave, then the chotzer, which is 6 amas, which is 12, and then you see this top picture is the way the cave is set up. It's on an angle, so from the top of the chotzer, of the open space, till the end of the top cave is another 8 amas. So you have 8, 6, 6 is 20. So again, you're trying to look over here for other possible caves that are considered like cemeteries. Matzah echad, if you found another cemetery, another cave site, then b'soif esrim, at the end of 20 amas, boidik hemenu lahalan esrama. You have to go continue search for more caves over there, because you wanted to mark off all the cemetery, all the caves with groups of dead bodies there in that field. Why? Because now you have proof that this was established to be a cemetery or a family cemetery or a few little groups of families that got together to bury in this area. Because if you're not going to search for more cemeteries, more caves, then perhaps somebody is going to find one dead body by himself on the other side, and he's going to think that it's not a cemetery, so he's going to move that dead body. So because you found one shchunas kavaris, one neighborhood of burials, we'll call it a mini cemetery, you have to look for other mini cemeteries so that nobody else should find just one dead body and think there's no cemetery over here and just take it and move the body. Because if you find the body for the first time, but you can move it. And what's underneath it. Okay, now the Gemara just tells you halachas of moving dead bodies. Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, matzah, if you find a dead body, let's say, like our example is you're digging up your backyard and you found a dead body and it's buried the Jewish way. Rat l'matzui, then you can move it only if there's no marker there. But if there's a marker that says so-and-so was buried here, then certainly you can't move it because he's buried there permanently. And again, you can't move a dead body for no reason. Because you're causing a disturbance in the neshama, whatever it is, and therefore only if we can guess that it was temporarily buried there, you're permitted to move it. Mace, if you find a dead body that's totally dead and it died natural, prat laharub. This is hard to understand, and it could be a halacha l'moshe Sinai. If you see that the guy was killed, so let's say he was killed and he was missing something from him, like bones are missing, so then halacha l'moshe Sinai says that you could move the dead body. Okay, because we can assume that it's not such a halacha l'moshe Sinai because you can assume that the guy was killed and they buried him right here, of course, temporarily, or maybe the killers buried him there. But mushkav, if you find him buried lying down like a Jewish person buries, prat liyoshiv, excluding if you find him buried sitting up. Hidarko, if you find him buried in the normal way. If you see that he's buried in such a way where his head is leaning in between his legs. So those were non-Jewish ways to bury. And if you find a non-Jewish person that you can tell he was non-Jewish, you're permitted to move the body. Tana Ula Barchanina taught, Meis shechaser ein leitfuna v'lo shchunas kvaris. He says that if the mace is missing something, and this could be whatever it is, if it's missing a leg, and you can tell that it wasn't buried here, then if you want to move it, fine. Aim like tfusa, you don't have to take the earth around it. Even if you find two other dead bodies, whole dead bodies, and the third dead body is missing a leg or something, it doesn't become a neighborhood of kavaris. Because I guess if the person died here was missing something, so he was buried there temporarily. So you don't have three people who were buried there, indications that they were permanently buried there. Why is it if they're buried, I spoke this out, why is it if they're buried in a funny way, if they're buried sitting up, or they're buried with their heads between their legs, do we say you can't move it? Arminan, because we say Dilma guy who maybe you found a guy, and if you find a guy, you're permitted to move the dead body. Okay, now the Gemara tells us another halacha. It said if you find three dead bodies straight up buried Jewish way, you can't move them. But what happens? You find motzashnaim, you found two of them, but roish shazeh b'tzad margo loish shazeh, roish shazeh b'tzad margo loish shazeh. So let's say you find two bodies. The head of one is buried opposite the feet of the other, and the head of the other is buried in the opposite the feet of the other. In other words, they're buried in two different directions. One's head is pointing north, and the other one is pointing south. Even though you find three dead bodies, but they're buried not all pointing, head this way and legs the other way. So then the Brisa says, Eilem Tvusa, when you move those dead bodies, you don't have to move the surrounding earth. V'lo shchunas kavaris, and it's no din of shchunas kavaris there, of making a cemetery. Now, if it's not a cemetery, because they're obviously not buried in the right direction, they're buried in different, each one is buried in a different direction. The ein lam tvusa, you don't have to take the absorbed earth around it, which we're going to explain in a minute, but you don't have to take some earth from that dead body. Again, it's hard to understand why not, but the halacha of tvusa is a very big secret. And if you find somebody buried in two different directions, you don't have to take any of that. You don't have to take earth from that area. You can just move the body without taking extra earth. Matzah shloisha. If you find 3 people, okay, but ha'echad yudua, one had a marker, ushnayim tchila, but 2 of them were brand new. Nobody knew about those. Or shnayim tchila, 2 of them were brand new. That should be echad tchila. One was brand new, ushnaim yaduim, and 2 of them were known. So again, they're not all known markers. They each one did not have either. They're not 3 tchilas, which means 3 unknown dead bodies, or 3 known dead bodies. That establishes a shchunas kavaris, a cemetery. But here you have 1 known, 2. It's the first time. Or 1 or two known and 1 is the first time, or 2 known, 2 the first time and 1 known. So the Mishnah says, the Brisa says, ein lam tvusa, but ein lam shchunas kvaris. You don't have to take the surrounding earth, and they don't have a din of shchunas kvaris. Again, once something is considered to be a neighborhood of burial, not only you can't move the bodies, but you have to start searching all around. Maybe there's another cave nearby. So therefore, that doesn't apply unless you find 3 that nobody knew about, or 3 bodies that people may have known about. Maisa, that the Gemara says a story, but Rabbi Yesheva, Shabadak, he found let's say an open field. Umatzah, he found Shnaim Yeduim, 2 dead bodies that had known markers on them, and therefore it was known 2 people were buried there. The Echet Chila, and the one he found nearby, which nobody knew about. So he wanted to call this a Shchunas HaKvaris, where he starts searching the whole field. Maybe there are other cemeteries. Uvikas Lasois and Shchunas Kvaris. He wanted to make this whole thing a neighborhood of Kvaris, and you probably have to call in the whole team to now search the whole property to see for other graves, and that's a big investment over here. Amalei Rabbi Kiva said, no, Kol Yagata, all the work that you did, Larik Yagati, it was for nothing, because it's not considered a cemetery. They didn't establish something to be a possible cave cemetery in a neighborhood of a cemetery. If you have 3 known dead bodies, or 3 for the first time they're discovering dead bodies over here, that's called a shchunas kavaris, where you have to start searching all the neighboring areas within 20 amas. But if they did not, if your case was they found 2 Yeduim, the Echet Chila, so it didn't establish it as a Shchunas Kavaris. Now the Gemara discusses, we said when you move a dead body, I find a dead body, I'm permitted to move it if I found 1 of them, but I have to take some dirt. So the Gemara asks the question, Heichidami Tvusa. Heichidami means Manolan. How do I know that you're supposed to take some of the dirt? I mean, why should I take the dirt? I should take the dead body and what I think is part of the dead body, but why shouldn't I start digging around underneath and take the dirt along with it to the new gravesite? Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, Amakra, we have a source in the Chumash. It says, Yaakov told Yosef, Unsasani mi Mitzrayim. And what Yaakov said, carry me with a little bit of Egypt. In other words, Yaakov thought that initially he's going to be buried in Egypt, and they're going to remove him from Egypt to Israel. So to the Marsa Machpelah. So Yaakov said, carry me and take a little bit of Egypt with me when you move me to the Ma'arasa Machpelah. Tul imi, take it with me. So now the Gemara asks, V'kama shir tvisa, how much of the earth you need to take? Perish Rabbi Lazar ben Padas, he's an Amira. He said, Noitel ofa tichoyach, you take loose earth, any loose earth that you find, you got to take it with you around the body. The choifer bepsula, and the hard earth, the virgin earth, that you know the dead body didn't go beyond that, the hard earth, you take gimel etzbois 3 fingers. So you have to dig deep, a little bit deeper than the grave, and take that earth along with the body to move it to its new location. So the Gemara asked, Meisvei, I will ask you a question. The Brisa seems to say you don't have to take any dirt. You just have to take what you think is the dead body or the coffin of the dead body. The kamashir tvusa, how much do you have to take along with the dead body? Perish Rab Lazar ben Rab Tzaddik. Rab Lazar ben Rab Tzaddik said, Noitel es hakismin, you have to take part of the coffin, the wood chips. Ves ha-ksavois, I think it's the loose dirt. V'zarek es havadoim. You throw away things that are for sure not part of the dead body. Let's say stones. You know that was never part of the dead body. You could get rid of that. You put aside things that you're not sure of. V'hashar, the rest of the bones, mistaref levroi binyonei shel meis, to the main part of the frame of the dead body, or to a roiva hakav of his bones, limloy tarvad rakav, or to, if you have a big shovelful of the corpse dust, you have to remove that. But the bottom line is the Rabbi Lazar ben Rab Tzaddik didn't say anything about digging up fresh new dirt along with the dead body that you have to bring to the new spot. So where did we come up with this din that you have to take fresh new dirt? Rabbi Lazar ben Padas is an Amira. And since the Gemara, who the Amekahai Tana, Rabbi Lazar ben Padas said like the following Tana. The Tanya we learned to the Brisa, Bekama Shir Tuvusa. How much of the dirt do you have to bring up and take with you when you're moving a dead body? Rabbi Yochanan, this is Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Mishum ben Azai, who said in the name of ben Azai, Nafel Oifil Tichayach v'chaypa basula shalosh atzbois. You have to take a little bit of the loose dirt and take from the hard earth 3 fingers deep. We've learned in the Mishnah that you have to search for more cemeteries. We go to Samachei Amebez. Amar Rava says like this: Badak upina. Let's say you found one body, you removed it. Then you found another body, you removed that because you found it singular. Badak, and then you search ba'ashkach, and then you found a third body. Oh, now if you found them all at one time, right, and you didn't move any of the bodies, then it's a shchunas kavaras. But now that you found the third body, so what do? Do you call it a shchunas kavaras? So we're going to learn that it is called a shchunas kavaras because this is a third body in the set. But do you have to bring back the other bodies? So first, you can't move the third body to join the other 2 bodies that you moved. And you don't have to move the other 2 bodies to where this one is located, because that's the cooler. Once you move the bodies, that's fine. But it's a shchunas kavaras, and now you have to start searching the whole area to see if there's other cemeteries, other mini caves over there. Others say you're allowed to move that third body. Rava said, since you moved the other 2 bodies, and now you're finding the third body by itself, the final line you can remove it. So the Gemara asks, but it's a third body. Why don't you make it like it's a cemetery over here? Amar Shlakish said, Ilu Matsu v'tiaretz Yisrael. This is a leniency that the Chachamim found. Now, once you already moved the 2 bodies, you're not going to make it this shchunas kavaras, and we're going to just ignore the whole situation just so we have more pure land in Israel where Kahanim can walk. So we try to be mitar Eretz Yisrael to make it easier for the Kahanim to have a place. If you start searching up the whole Israel may become one big cemetery. So therefore, leave it. Let's say if you didn't find anything, if you didn't find another cave in 20 amas, all that remains is the first cave that you found, and we'll call that a shchunas kavaras, a grave site. And that circle area of a bunch of amas, that area will be called a neighborhood of a grave, and beyond that, it's tahar. That's all. New Mishnah, and we'll just do the Mishnah and the Gemara over here, and then we'll end. The Mishnah says, if a person has, as you know, just to review, if a person has a white blotch on his skin, that's called a nega, provided that he has a siman tumah, which is 2 white hairs, or you have a normal skin in the white blotch. Or let's say a person has a white blotch, but he has no white skin and no 2 hairs are there. So the Chumash says that you put him in quarantine. And if it grows a little bit, if the nega grows, then he's considered to be a mitzvah muchla. Then he's guaranteed a mitzvah. If it doesn't grow, if it remains the same size, they lock him up again, and and they see if it stays the same, the kohen says you could go home. You were quarantined for the wrong reasons. But if two white hairs grew or it spread a little bit, then we say the kohen makes him a mitzora muchla. That's called a mitzora muchla. So our Mishnah is talking about like this. Our Mishnah is talking about kol negoyim. Okay. By the way, kol negoyim. Kol negoyim. We just want to explain the case also. It's so that it's clear, because the Gemara, the Mishnah doesn't explain itself so well. When I told you when a nega spreads, then you become tamei. Let's say after you became tamei, the nega shrunk to its original size, then you become tahar. So our Mishnah is discussing a situation. You have two people. Okay, you have two people. One of them had a nega the size of a dime. Let's call it a gris. The other one had a nega the size of a $50. Okay, and they both went into semi-quarantine because they didn't have the white hairs. They didn't have any siman tumah. So we put them into quarantine. Then at the end of the first week, he checked both of them, and they both have the size of a sela. They both have the size of a $50 nega. Now, one of them for sure spread, but if the kohen messed up his books, he doesn't know which one spread and which one stayed the same, because one of them originally had his nega the size of a $50 or sela. So his didn't spread. It's the one who had the size of a dime spread, but he doesn't know which one was spread or not. So because he did not verify which one it is, and none of them are for sure tamei, therefore both of them are tahar now. They don't even have to stay another week. They get a free pass and go home. That's it. That's when the kohen messed up. But that's the first case of the Mishnah. So kol safek negoyim batchila. If it's a safek negoyim and you have two people messed up and you don't know who's going to be the mitzora muklat and who's going to be in the mitzora musgar, who's not for sure a mitzora, we say both of them are tahar and we send them both home. Because, as the Mishnah explains, because they were not connected to a tumah. What happens in another situation? Mishaniska tumah. Let's say you have a situation, both of them became tamei for sure. How is that? One of them, you have two people, okay? One of them came to the kohen. One has a sela. One has a nega the size of a size of a sela of a $50. One has the nega the size of a gris. At the end of the first week, you see the negas, both of them are sela v'oil. They're both of them bigger than a $50. So both of them expanded. So both of them really are tamei. The one with the gris for sure, and the one with the sela, it expanded more than a sela. So both of them became tamei. Now you have two people who are mitzora muchlat. But then one of them, at the end of a certain period of time, both of them shrunk down to a sela. So one of them, actually, the spreading disappeared. And one of them, who originally had a gris, still did not, the spreading did not go down to its original size, because his original size was the size of a dime, or gris. And his, it's still as a sela. But you don't know which one is tar, which is not tar. So you have two mitzora milchlats, and you don't know which one is tar, which one is tamei. So the Mishnah says, Mishaniskak l'tamei. Once you know that both of them are tamei, so they had a cheskas tuma, so then now you have a doubt which one is tar, which one is not tar. Sveikei tamei, they both remain tamei until you know for sure that both of them became tar. In other words, the nega has to disappear to the size of a gris. So manohalimili, how do you know that when you have a suffix of a nega, you should try to make it tahar? How do you know that? Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Amakra, the pasuk says, L'taroi oy l'tamaoi. That means with a nega, you try to make it tar. You try to get the guy to go free before you do tumah to the guy. Before you declare him tamei, try to seek a way to do tahar. Since the Torah said the word tar first, so we always try, when in doubt, we always try to make the person tar. So the Gemara asks, if that is true, even if you have two mitzayre muchlats and now you know one of them became tar, you should also say that both should become tar, because the Chumash seems to imply that we always try, when in doubt, say that person is tar, because the tare always comes first. So why is it when we say that they both mitzara muchlak, we say no, you're not, you both remain tamei until I am 100% certain that you're both tar. Ella, it's not true. Really, the situation of our Mishnah, perhaps we always go after chazaka. Chazaka's tahara, we say you're tahar. If you're cheskas tuma, we say you're tamei. So what is the pasuk talking about? That is talking about a totally different case. We learned in a brisa. The truth is, a nega, in order to be tamei, first the white blotch has to appear, and then you have white hair coming out. So im baheres kodme l'seir loven, if the white blotch appears first and then the white hair appears, tamei, then we say the nega is tamei. The im seir loven koidim lebaheres, if this white hair came before the blotch, you had white hair and then a white blotch came, tar, then the nega is tar. Right, the white hair has to appear after the white blotch. Suffix, if you don't know when the white hair came, before the blotch or after the blotch, you should go strict tamei, because most of the time the white blotch appears first, and then that causes the black hairs to turn white. So if you're in doubt, say you're tamei. Rabbi Yeshua Amar Keha. Rabbi Yeshua says Keha, my Keha. Rabbi Yehuda, Keha means tar. It's another way of saying, send the guy home, don't be mitame him. It's tar. We can assume it's tar. Even though most of the times the white blotch will make the hair turn white, as long as you're not 100% certain, you say the mitzara is tar. So Gemara says, maybe you should mitame him, because that's really what's supposed to happen. That the white blotch caused the hair to turn white. And in this situation, it's a unique situation where the Torah gives you the leniency according to Rabbi Yeshua. Since the Torah says tahara tchila, so therefore the Torah wants you to be mitar the person unless you know for sure that the white hair came after the white blotch. But if you have any slight doubt, even if it's a 10% doubt, you should be mitar him. That's what that pasuk is coming about. Our Mishnah is talking about you simply go after the chazaka. One thing that is halacha l'Moshe Sinai is that even though you go after the chazaka, you're not matama any of them. In the first case scenario, we said that once you have a doubt with two people, once you have a doubt who's the tamei and who's the tahar, and they were both mitzara muzgar, since it's a doubt, you send them both home. That is a halacha Sinai, which you don't even make them stay the second week. So that's something you have to learn Masechta Negoim to learn more about that. But this was brought into the last three mishnahs of the Masechta, which talks about raglayim l'davar. Okay.